Hello guys and welcome. My name is Martin Jones and this is the London School of Business and Finance, the LSBF, as you can see from the branding over my shoulder. And it is my job here in Studio 1 to talk to you about bookkeeping. There are two flavours of bookkeeping. There's the bookkeeping transactions syllabus and the bookkeeping controls syllabus, and I am doing both with you. In fact, I've done one and I'm about to do the next. I've done bookkeeping transactions and I'm now about to do bookkeeping controls. And if you were with me while you were looking at the bookkeeping transactions exercise, you might recall that we were ticking between pieces of paper to make sure that we paid the right balance to a supplier. And that really you could call kind of like a control. And there's kind of a transaction element to what I am going to do now, which is I'm going to do bookkeeping controls, but there's a transaction element to it. So as I was saying earlier, the two bookkeeping syllabi are very similar with an awful lot of overlap. So if you're thinking of doing these two together, it makes an awful lot of sense. Now I'm hoping I had some correspondence with me in the studio while I was doing the previous session. I'm hoping the same will happen here. If you are here with me, give me a nice big thumbs up or the equivalent. It's always nice to feel like I'm teaching you students rather than just teaching a camera. So give me a thumbs up if you're out there. But now is time for me to press mini-me and suck myself into the corner, and you can see by a miracle I have the exercise that I need to do with you as regards bookkeeping controls. And do you know what, I feel like just reading and getting on with this, so let's read and get on with this. Task number 3, MJ, that's me. This is a customer's account in the sales ledger. It's Zoe Daniels, and this presentation I got over my shoulder is actually being produced on a Word document, but the equivalent simulation that exists on the AAT website looks just like this as well, which is kind of a little bit dry, because what it is communicating is a T account, but it doesn't look enormously like a T account, does it really? Or at least it doesn't to me anyway. Really, you know, I like to see nice hard lines on my T accounts, so I'm going to add the line there. Actually, that's a bit skinny. I'm going to go for a nice chunky red pen. There we go. There we go. So that's the T account. And what we're talking about is a customer that owes us money. The customer's called Zoe. So there we go. So we've got Zoe owing us money. What do we need to know about Zoe owing us money? Oh, you know, I remember this one. It's a bit of a tragedy. The customer has now ceased trading, owing the amount outstanding, which includes VAT, which is not very nice for us, is it? But probably an awful lot worse for poor old Zoe. So Zoe has gone bust, and she might owe us a balance, but we're never going to get it back, so we're going to chuck it away, throw it away. And this process of writing off a receivable is often called writing off a receivable. It generally goes by the more common currency of bad debts. So we're going to record a bad debt. Now let's have a look at the requirements to find out how we're going to record this bad debt. 1. Record the journal entries that needed in the general ledger to write off the net amount and the VAT. Oh, that's a big clue. That's a big clue. When I first read that through myself, I kind of like sort of scanned it. I was like, yeah, I know what that journal is. But now I read it, the question itself actually kind of tells you that this is a triple entry kind of a thing. Do not enter a 0 in unused debit or credit columns. It's good advice, that actually. So you'll see this advice repeated constantly throughout the simulation. Just do as you're told there. Yep, Justin's giving me a thumbs up, everything's going fine. Is it just the echo again, is it? Okay, so we're going to, if you've got a slight echo, a slight noise problem, Justin's going to sort that out for me. But I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to record the journal. Let me just use this thing so Justin can use the mouse. There we go. Away you go.
There's a big hint there, isn't there, in that you've got 3 lines. So
we've got debit this, credit that. Poor old Zoe's gone bust and we're not going to get a bean from her, are we? So let's find out what she owes us and write it off. Should we do that first? So we're going to remove her receivable balance from our T accounts. I don't know why I'm feeling this so personally. It's not actually a real situation, but somehow it's made me feel rather sad. That's quite strange, isn't it? Feel sad about an imaginary person going bust. But there you go. It seems to have depressed me a little bit. So here we go. So can you see she's got a balance brought forward of 984? You know, in a real accounting system, you just press a button, beep, and it'll give you the carried down balance. But this isn't real; it's fake. We're sort of what it's testing is that you understand how the computer's working. Useful thing to test. So what she owes us at the brought down date of the 1st of June is 984, and then we send her another invoice and she owes us more. But some of the stuff we've sent her must have been faulty or something. I don't know quite why we've sent credit notes, but we have sent credit notes, so she owes us less than the invoice values brought forward. That's what that T account is saying to us. So let me bring down the balance that is apparently owed, which is 984 plus 1248 minus the other side 317 and minus 163. If I do seem slightly like Mr. Magoo, the way I'm looking at this screen over here, do have sympathy with me. The screen is not enormous and there's a massive light just above it. So if I do look a little bit Mr. Magoo, that's why. So 1752 is the amount that is owing in total. So I'm going to credit 1752 to remove the receivable balance. The receivable balance is a debit balance, so I'm going to remove it with 1752. But I want to get back the VAT on that. So, oh sorry, I need to use the appropriate phrase. Here, this is the customer account in the sales ledger. So there are a number of different ways that you can describe this removing of Zoe's balance. But sales ledger brackets Zoe Daniels probably is a very nice way of going for it. So sales ledger Zoe Daniels. I'll get Zoe in there. I'm not going to write small. There we go. And I've removed that receivable entirely from the balance sheet, to use that language. The basic, you see, the reason I'm stuttering is I'm thinking about exactly how I want to communicate this to you. So the receivable has been taken off the balance sheet and chucked into the P&L. That's the plan. I'm going to just chuck this into the P&L. But the amount of bad news that I have is less than the derecognition of the receivable, because I have paid VAT on my invoices in the past, and because I'm not, that's an important point. I've paid VAT on the invoices that I have sent to Zoe in the past. I've paid VAT already, so because I'm never going to get any money at all from Zoe, I can have back my VAT from the VAT authorities, from the HM Customs and Excise. So the amount of bad news that I have is less than the balance of 1752. So the bad debts recognition the charge to irrecoverable receivables in the P&L is less than the full balance because I'm going to get some of my VAT back. Now the VAT rate is 20% throughout this examination. It's an assumed rate, but it is actually the real rate as well. So that 1752 includes the 20%. So I need to find out how much is in there. So, oops, there we go, 1752. So it's multiplied by, what, 20 divided by 120. So 292. And times by 5 equals 1460 is the total that I will recognise in my P&L. How am I doing for time? Very good for time. And how much more do I need to talk about? Yeah, I'm just got to be careful I don't over-explain this and then run out of time at the end. So I just want to make sure that I have plenty of time, and I do, because I really want to get this feeling sorted for you. Yeah, lovely, great. So I'm just going to put in the receivables balance. I think I'll put up here. So the debit balance here is 1752, and like I say, I shouldn't really be getting emotional about this because Zoe doesn't actually exist. But Zoe there, she's gone bust, and that balance, which is an asset balance of 1752, should be pushed down to 0. And the way that you remove a debit balance is with a corresponding credit balance. So I think it's fairly obvious that the amount of money that we're going to get from Zoe is 0. So the Zoe balance should drop to 0 from 1752. This is a debit balance. To remove a debit balance, you credit the debit balance to remove it. Hence the start of my double entry there. Hence the start of my double entry. But I mean, it's bad news, you know, she's gone bust. It's bad news for her, but it's bad news for me. You know, I've made sales, stock has flowed out, and I'm just not going to get this cash. So I've got bad news known as bad debts, and this is going to be charged to the P&L as an expense, irrecoverable receivables, all sorts of different names it goes by. So this charge is going to go to the P&L. But hang on, wait a second. When I sent the invoices to her, I slapped 20% VAT on top, and then after sending the invoices to her, I then actually paid the HM Customs and Excise, the VAT, a short period after sending out the invoice. Now, the way that bad debts works is you actually have to wait quite a while before you can do this double entry, is the truth of the matter. You have to wait quite a while before you can do this double entry. So that 292, I've paid it to the HM Customs and Excise, and you know, I've paid it on the basis that I'm going to get it from Zoe and I'm going to pass it on, you know, value added tax. You know, I'm the middleman collecting tax on behalf of the government, so Zoe pays me and I pay the government. That's the idea. But hang on, I've already paid the government and I've got nothing from Zoe. That's not fair. So the idea is that now, all right, okay, I'm not going to get anything for Zoe, let's just forget her, but at least I can get some of the money back from the HM Customs and Excise. And you can, providing you fulfill certain criteria. And in order to fulfill those criteria, in order to do the double entry here, you have to fulfill the criteria. And the criteria are quite onerous. So you can't just whack this double entry through because you've got a bad feeling about Zoe. It has to be something pretty extreme, like ceasing trading. You know, Zoe ceases trading, then you're allowed to put through the double entry. So she's ceased trading, and I'm going, right, okay, I can't get back the 1460, but I can get back the 292 from the customs and excise. So I'm looking at them and saying, you owe me. They're a debtor or a debit balance. Can you see the debit balance? So we have a debit balance. I have a debit balance now due from the customs and excise of 292. And what else do we need to tell you about that? Yes, of course. That balance of 292 is a receivable from the VAT authorities, but is almost certainly swamped by the payable. So the usual effect of that debit balance is not that you get money back from the customs and excise, but you pay less in your next return that you send to the HM Customs and Excise. It is actually possible that we could end up with the 292 coming back to us. That's not forbidden, but it's much more likely that we owe them a balance apart from this, so we just knock 292 off the balance and pay them the net. That's much more likely. And I've been quite lopsided with my time between the two requirements, because I think the second one is more simple. But I don't want to run out of time, so I better have a look at the second one. And then if we have some time at the end, we can chat through a few things. Now, Justin's had to come in and play with my chat. So I just want to see if there's any chat there. Oh, Wish, you're back again. Yes. In the CBA, will we have to type the account names in the empty boxes? Oh, it's a lovely question, Wish. Speaking of Wish, in some ways, I wish that the culture in LSBF TV was for us to actually go to the AAT website and do the exercises on the simulation in front of you. That would be a really, really nice thing to do. But there are copyright issues with us going to the AAT website and then sticking up at our screen and sticking it in Facebook, you can just imagine. But also there's technological problems as well. This is the AAT website seems really stable to me, and when I'm on it I feel very comfortable, but you can just bet your bottom dollar it would go down on a Friday afternoon just when we need it. So what I have here that I've just filled in is basically a blank piece of paper and a pen. But in the exam, it's much easier, because what you have is like 5 choices under each box. So if I just highlight box number 1, oops, sorry, I want it nice and big, nice and thick. If I highlight box number 1, do you know what? I might go to the website if there's time at the end. Probably isn't, but if there is, I might take a cheeky look and show you how it works. So in box number 1, there's a drop-down menu, as they call it, and you choose from 1 of 5, and the 5 for every box will have the same choice. So it'll be like 3 real accounts and 2 distractors. You know how the game's played. So it'll be like choose between sales ledger, VAT, bad debts, and the noodle tea account and the sales tea account. Now the noodle tea account and the sales tea account are distractors. You ignore those, but you have to get the right. You have to get the right click. So what you do is you click the appropriate balance. Is that clear? I think it's difficult to explain using my tongue rather than showing it to you, so I'll say it again. My monitor's just frozen again, so I'll try and wake it up, because it would be nice to have some feedback on answering your question. Oh, come on, mouse. Hello? There it is. There we go. Got it now. Got it. Great, okay, so wish when you're cool. I'm looking for a cool from you. Give me a cool when you're cool. Right, I'll go back again. So in bad debts, there's a little button on the right hand side which looks like this. it's got a little arrow there, and when you click on that arrow, it gives you the choice of 5, and you choose the most appropriate one. So it might have in this order bad debts, VAT, sales, and 2 distractors. So sales ledger. So it's got bad debts, VAT, sales ledger, and 2 distractors. And for the top one, you pick up bad debts. For the next one, you pick VAT. For the next one, you pick sales ledger. Oh, and by the way, of course, the journal that I've represented there is the classic way of representing journals. That's a good point, isn't it? The classic way of representing journals is to put the debits first and the credits second. It is the classic way, isn't it? But you'd be equally right, and the computer would mark you equally right if you did this in the opposite order. So if you did the credits to sales ledger first, then you did the VAT in the middle again, and the bad debts at the bottom. That would be cool. But yeah, in the CBE, will we have to type the account names into the empty boxes? Nope. Not generally, and certainly not in this particular case. What you had was a drop-down menu, and you chose the appropriate title. You had to type the number. So there is typing. So when this is a real exam question, this simulation is a real exam question from 2016. And when this was examined, you had to type that number. But no, you didn't have to type the account name. You chose from a drop-down of 5. Can you give me a cool if you're cool with that, Wish? Give me a cool if you're cool with that. Give me a thumbs up. Give me some more flowers if you're happy with that, Wish. All right, I'm going to go and see how we do for time. Just enough time to take a look at the last exercise. And it is easier. A new business has been started and a new set of accounts to be opened. A partially completed journal to record the opening entries is shown below, and the partially completed is not really very completed at all. All we have is the balances without the debit and credit implied by them. Just let me give you, there we go, get the thing on screen fully. Complete the journal by placing each amount in either the debit or the credit column. It's clear what to do, isn't it? You just pick up the number. You just pick up the number and you slot it either here or here, depending on whether you think it's a debit or credit. So, oh gosh, I hope I'm not overcooking this by saying I think this is fairly intuitive, but I do think this is fairly intuitive. Cash at bank, that's an asset. So we whack that in the debit side. This is the single entity concept. So my phone is my business, and when I put money in, I have an asset, but the business owes me. So the business has a creditor for the capital I put in. So when I put in capital, the business then owes me and has a creditor. So the capital creditor will go in credit column, in the credit column. The computer equipment, surprise, surprise, is an asset. 6910. And the loan from the bank is, I think that's fairly obvious, is a creditor. Classic creditor, isn't it? That's the classic liability you borrow from the bank. So what this business has done is it has borrowed from me and also borrowed from the bank. And it's got how much? 8,000 in the bank account for a short time, and then gone out and spent 6, 9, 10 of it on computer equipment, and that's when the T accounts wake up. Here we go. There's a little clue here. This one, you know that you've got the right double entry because there are only so many ways that you can get the debits with the credits to balance. Should we just double check that? We can obviously add down on the right hand side in our heads. It's not that hard to add down on the left, but don't want to get cocky. 1090 plus 6910 equals 8,000. There we go. I don't know why I should sound so surprised. It's 8,000, there we go. So the debits equal the credits. wonderful reinforcement that we've done the correct double entry, and it's pretty much time. So I think what I'll do is I will start to summarise. That was bookkeeping controls, that one, and bookkeeping control questions are mostly based around sales and receivables and purchases and payables, and so are bookkeeping transaction questions, but both of them have strong elements of control environment accounting coming through in them, and both of them have strong elements of accounting. The order that I showed you these two exercises is in fact absolutely the right order, but it almost seems like there's more controls in the transaction question and more transactions in the controls question. But that really is how the examination was set in 2016 and how it's now published as a specimen paper. Great, that's enough chat for me. I'm now going to go big head and move into the camera, nice and central, and say to you, thank you very much for listening to me. My name is Martin Jones and I have been presenting to you on Level 2 Bookkeeping. If you've seen both of the recordings, you will know that I've presented on both of the bookkeeping streams. I wish you very good luck with your examination, with your CBE examination when you come to do it. And I do recommend that you look at the specimen papers on the AAT website. Good luck with your studies, guys. I look forward to seeing you in later recordings. See you soon. Here I go.